There are places on Earth where sunlight has never reached. Places where the pressure is strong enough to crush a submarine. Places where the water is so cold that almost nothing moves. And then there are places that scientists refuse to talk about. Not because they don't know what is down there, but because they know just enough to be afraid of it. In 1987, a research vessel called the Calypso 2 disappeared from the North Pacific while conducting a deep-sea survey. There was no storm. No mechanical warning. No distress call. The ship simply stopped responding. When a rescue vessel finally reached its last known position, they found the Calypso 2 still floating. Its engines were running. Its lights were on. Its laboratory equipment was still powered. But every member of the 11-person crew was gone. The strangest part was the submarine. The Calypso 2 carried a small experimental diving vessel called the Prehistoric. It was designed to descend deeper than most civilian submarines could safely travel. The Prehistoric was missing too. For 36 years, nobody knew where it had gone. Until 2023. That was when a private oceanographic expedition found something on the floor of a trench nearly 7 miles beneath the surface. Something that should not have been there. And when they brought the recording back to the surface, marine biologists noticed something disturbing. The creature captured on camera wasn't swimming. It was following the submarine. For almost 3 hours. At a depth where almost nothing alive should have been moving. My name is Daniel Mercer. I was the chief pilot of the expedition that found it. And there is one thing I wish I had never seen. A shape moving beneath us. Not beside us. Not in front of us. Beneath us. Waiting. The expedition began in late October. Our ship, the Meridian, was an old but heavily modified research vessel. It had originally been built for geological surveys, but over the years it had been upgraded with modern sonar systems, remotely operated vehicles, pressure-resistant cameras, and a small crew of deep-sea specialists. There were 9 of us aboard. Dr. Elena Voss was our lead marine biologist. She was brilliant, impatient, and obsessed with prehistoric marine life. She believed that the deep ocean was essentially a living museum. According to her theory, entire branches of ancient life could still exist in isolated underwater environments. Not dinosaurs roaming around exactly as they had millions of years ago. But descendants. Animals that had evolved separately from everything we knew. She often told us that humans had explored more of the surface of Mars than they had explored the deepest parts of Earth's oceans. At the time, I thought she was exaggerating. I don't anymore. Our target was a trench that had been mapped only partially. The sonar data showed an unusual formation almost 6 miles below the surface. A huge cavity. Almost perfectly circular. It was surrounded by steep walls of black volcanic rock. There were no known caves in that region large enough to produce the readings we were seeing. But the sonar kept returning the same result. A hollow space. And something inside it. At first, we assumed it was a geological structure. Maybe an underground chamber created by volcanic activity. Maybe a collapsed section of the ocean floor. But Elena wasn't convinced. She stared at the sonar display for nearly 20 minutes. Then she said something that made everyone in the control room go silent. "That's not a cavity." I looked at her. "What do you mean?" She pointed toward the screen. "It's moving." Nobody laughed. Nobody said anything. The sonar image showed a massive dark shape beneath the seafloor. It appeared. Disappeared. Then appeared again several hundred meters away. We checked the equipment. The technicians recalibrated the sonar. Nothing changed. The shape was still there. Moving slowly. Elena leaned closer to the screen. "How big?" Our sonar specialist swallowed. "Approximately 150 meters." I thought he had made a mistake. 150 meters was enormous. A blue whale could reach 30 meters. This thing was 5 times longer. Could it be multiple objects? No. Underwater landslide? No. Gas pocket? No. Elena looked at me. Take the Asterion down. I remember staring at her. The Asterion was our only manned submersible. It could reach the trench floor, but that wasn't what worried me. What worried me was that we had no idea what was inside the cavity. Still, the mission had been designed specifically for unexplored environments. So I agreed. 2 hours later, I climbed inside the Asterion with Elena. The hatch sealed above us. The world outside disappeared. For the next several minutes, we descended through blue water. Then darker blue. Then black. At around 1,000 meters, sunlight vanished completely. The Asterion's external lights became our entire world. Small particles floated through the beams. They looked like snow. Except this snow moved upward. We continued downward. 3,000 meters. 4,000. 5,000. The pressure indicators climbed steadily. Inside the cabin, every sound became noticeable. The hum of the electrical systems. The faint vibration of the thrusters. Our breathing. Elena barely spoke. She was watching the monitors. At 5,400 meters, something appeared on the camera. A fish. At least, that's what we thought. It was small and completely transparent. We watched it drift through the light. Its body was almost invisible except for a dark line running through its center. Elena smiled. Beautiful. I didn't think it was beautiful. Something about it felt wrong. Its eyes were enormous. Far too large for its body. And they were pointed directly at us. It followed the submarine for several seconds. Then disappeared into darkness. We kept descending. At 6,000 meters, the water temperature dropped sharply. The pressure was now enormous. The hull creaked. Not loudly. Just enough to remind me that thousands of meters of ocean were sitting on top of us. Elena noticed the sound. Everything okay? Yes. You're lying. I'm a submarine pilot. It's part of the job. She laughed quietly. Then the sonar pinged. Once. Then again. A large return appeared behind us. I checked the display. Nothing. The sonar technician's voice came through our communication system. Meridian to Asterion. We just picked up a contact. Where? Approximately 400 meters behind you. I looked at the rear camera. Nothing. Only darkness. I adjusted the Asterion's position. Still nothing. Then the sonar pinged again. The contact had moved. It was now 200 meters away. Behind us. How fast is it moving? I asked. There was silence. Then the technician answered. About 20 knots. I frowned. 20 knots was fast. Very fast. Especially at this depth. Is it a submarine? We don't know. Could be equipment debris. No. The contact moved again. 100 meters. I turned the Asterion. The external lights swept across the darkness. Nothing. Then something passed through the edge of the beam. It was enormous. I only saw it for half a second. A pale surface. Smooth. Curved. Then it disappeared. Elena grabbed my arm. Did you see that? Yes. What was it? I don't know. The sonar pinged again. The contact was gone. Completely gone. For several minutes, nothing happened. Then we reached the trench floor. The seafloor was unlike anything I had ever seen. Black rock stretched in every direction. There were narrow cracks glowing with faint orange light. Hydrothermal vents. But something else covered the ground. Bones. Hundreds of them. Some belonged to fish. Others were much larger. Elena moved closer to the camera. Those aren't modern. I looked at her. What? She pointed. A massive jawbone lay half buried in the sediment. It was longer than the Asterian itself. The teeth were enormous. Some were nearly the length of my forearm. Elena's voice became quiet. That species shouldn't exist. I stared at the bones. What was it? She didn't answer immediately. Finally she said, "We're not sure." We continued forward. The cavity appeared on our sonar. It was less than 2 kilometers away. As we approached, the walls of the trench rose around us. The Asterian's lights barely reached them. Then we saw something strange. The rocks were covered in scars. Long vertical grooves. Hundreds of them. Each one was approximately 2 meters wide. They continued from the bottom of the trench all the way up the rock wall. I slowed the submarine. Elena studied the markings. They're too deep to be geological. What made them? She didn't answer. Then the sonar pinged. The contact had returned. This time it was directly below us. I looked at the sonar screen. The shape wasn't moving. It was stationary. And it was huge. The return stretched across the entire display. I switched to the downward camera. At first, there was nothing. Then the light caught something. A ridge. Black. Smooth. Curved. It looked like rock. I lowered the Asterian. The object became clearer. It wasn't rock. It was skin. Something enormous was directly beneath us. I immediately increased altitude. The object moved. Not away. Up. It rose with us. Elena stared at the screen. "Daniel. I see it." The thing followed. We climbed another 50 meters. It climbed too. Then another 100. Still beneath us. It was keeping pace perfectly. The sonar couldn't determine its full size anymore. The return was too large. Then something happened that I will never forget. The object stopped. We stopped. For several seconds, nothing moved. Then the creature turned. Slowly. Its body rotated beneath us. And for the first time, the camera caught its head. The image was distorted by darkness and distance. But I could see enough. A long, narrow skull. 2 enormous eyes. And a mouth. A mouth far too large for its head. The jaw opened. Not to attack. Not to bite. It simply opened. And inside was another row of teeth. Elena whispered. "Oh my God." The creature disappeared. The sonar lost it. I immediately turned the Asterian toward the surface. "We're leaving." Elena didn't argue. That frightened me more than anything. We began climbing. 500 meters. 1,000. 2,000. The pressure started dropping. I could finally breathe normally again. Then the communication system crackled. The Meridian was calling us. "Asterian, respond." I pressed the transmitter. "Go ahead." "Where are you?" "Ascending." A pause. Then the technician said, "Daniel, we have a problem." "What?" "The sonar contact is still with you." I looked at Elena. "That's impossible." The technician's voice became tense. "It's not beneath you anymore." I waited. "Where is it?" He answered. "Above you." I stared at the sonar display. The contact was moving upward. Faster than us. Much faster. It was heading toward the surface. Elena looked at me. Could it be another animal? I didn't answer. The sonar suddenly filled with static. Then a new signal appeared. A second contact. Then a third. Then a fourth. All around us. I realized what was happening. The creature wasn't alone. There were dozens of them. And they were rising. We increased speed. The Asterian's engine screamed. The hull vibrated violently. The contacts surrounded us. But none attacked. They simply followed. Until we reached approximately 3,000 meters. Then every contact stopped. At exactly the same depth. I stared at the screen. Why did they stop? Elena was silent. Then she pointed toward the front camera. Daniel. I turned. Something was floating ahead of us. A piece of metal. At first I thought it was debris. Then I recognized the shape. It was part of a submarine. An old submarine. The paint had been scraped away. The metal was covered in deep scratches. I moved closer. A faded marking was visible on the hull. Asterian. I stopped breathing. Elena stared at it. No. The wreck was impossible. The Asterian was sitting around 30 meters in front of us. Our Asterian. I looked at the control panel. Everything was functioning. The same hull. The same controls. The same instruments. But the wreck outside was identical. Even the serial number was visible. And then something moved inside the wreck. A human silhouette. Standing behind the glass. I stared at it. The figure slowly raised one hand. And waved. Elena screamed. I turned the Asterian away. The silhouette remained behind us. Watching. Then the communication system came alive. A voice entered the cabin. Weak. Distorted. But unmistakably human. Don't come back down. I froze. The voice continued. We're still here. Then the transmission ended. And something enormous struck the Asterian from below. The entire cabin went dark. For several seconds, I couldn't see anything. I heard Elena shouting. I felt the submarine rolling. Warning alarms screamed. Then the emergency lights came on. The Asterian was descending. Fast. I fought the controls. Nothing responded. We were falling. Straight back toward the trench. The sonar came alive again. One contact. Then two. Then dozens. They were waiting below us. And the largest one was directly beneath our falling submarine. Its mouth was open. Waiting. I grabbed the controls with both hands. The Asterian continued to descend. Elena looked at me. Daniel. I looked at the sonar. The creature was getting closer. And then I realized something. It wasn't trying to eat us. It was trying to push us down. Back toward the trench. Back toward the place where it had been hiding. Back toward whatever was waiting inside that black cavity. And as the Asterian disappeared into the darkness again, a light appeared far below us. A light that shouldn't have existed at the bottom of the prehistoric sea. It looked exactly like a doorway. And something was standing inside it. The light below us grew brighter. Not brighter in the way sunlight becomes stronger. This light was different. It was cold. Pale. Almost blue. It appeared to be coming from inside the rock itself. The Asterian continued falling. I fought the controls again. Nothing. The main thrusters were unresponsive. The emergency ballast system had failed. Our depth indicator was climbing rapidly. 6,000 meters. 6,100. 6,200. Elena was gripping the side of her seat. Daniel, we're going to hit the bottom. I know. Can you stop us? I'm trying. The control panel flickered. For one brief second, every system came back online. I pushed the thrusters forward. The Prehistoric slowed. Then the lights went out again. We dropped another 100 meters. I could see the trench floor approaching through the forward camera. Black rock. Clouds of sediment. And those enormous bones. Then something moved through the darkness. The creature. It passed beneath us. Its body was so large that I couldn't see both ends of it. Its back rose toward the submarine. The Prehistoric struck something soft. Not rock. The entire submarine bounced. Elena screamed. I looked at the camera. The creature had pushed us. It wasn't attacking. It was guiding us. Straight toward the blue light. The Prehistoric landed on the seafloor. The impact shook the cabin. I checked the instruments. Hull pressure was stable. Power was low. Communications were dead. The creature disappeared into the darkness. For several seconds, neither of us spoke. Then Elena whispered. Why did it save us? I looked at the blue light. I don't think it did. We both understood what that meant. It had brought us here for a reason. I restarted the navigation system manually. The Prehistoric moved forward. The blue light was approximately 500 meters ahead. The walls of the trench rose around us. As we approached, the sonar began behaving strangely. The readings were no longer showing the surrounding rock. Instead, they were showing enormous empty spaces beneath the seafloor. Caverns. Tunnels. A network. Something had carved an entire underground world beneath the trench. Elena stared at the display. This is impossible. What? Look. She pointed. The tunnels weren't random. They formed patterns. Long corridors connected huge chambers. Some were hundreds of meters wide. Others were narrow and winding. And all of them led toward one location. The blue light. We moved closer. Then the camera revealed something on the ground. Footprints. Not human footprints. Not animal tracks. They were enormous circular impressions. Each one was several meters across. There were hundreds of them. They led toward the light. Elena studied them. Something walked through here. How long ago? She shook her head. I don't know. I moved the Prehistoric forward. Then I noticed something else. The footprints were fresh. The sediment inside them had not settled. Whatever had made them had passed through recently. Very recently. A deep vibration traveled through the submarine. Boom. 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 The sound came from somewhere ahead. Elena looked at me. What was that? I don't know. Boom. 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 The blue light flickered with every impact. Then the ground beneath us moved. Not much. Just enough to send a cloud of sediment into the water. Something was approaching. I turned the Prehistoric around. The path behind us was blocked. The creature was there. Its enormous body filled the tunnel. Its eyes reflected our lights. It wasn't moving. It simply watched us. Then it opened its mouth. Inside its mouth was the same cold blue light. Elena whispered. That's where the light is coming from. I stared. The creature's mouth wasn't glowing. Something behind it was. Something deeper. Something inside the creature. The animal moved closer. I expected it to attack. Instead, it turned its head toward the tunnel. Then back toward us. Almost as if it was telling us to follow. I didn't want to. But we had nowhere else to go. So I followed. The creature moved slowly through the tunnel. The Prehistoric followed behind it. For nearly 10 minutes, we traveled through darkness. Then the tunnel opened. The chamber beyond was enormous. Our lights couldn't reach the ceiling. The walls were covered in strange formations. At first, I thought they were rocks. Then one moved. They were eggs. Thousands of them. Huge eggs. Some were larger than the Prehistoric. Others were the size of cars. All of them were attached to the walls. Elena stopped breathing. Oh no. I looked at her. What? She pointed toward the far side of the chamber. A shell had cracked open. Something was moving inside. We watched. A long, pale limb emerged. Then another. The creature inside twisted. It was small compared with the enormous animal outside. But it was already larger than a shark. Its skin was almost transparent. Its eyes opened. It turned toward us. And then dozens of other eggs began to move. The entire chamber came alive. Cracks appeared across the shells. One after another. Elena grabbed my shoulder. We need to leave. I didn't argue. I reversed the Prehistoric. But the large creature blocked the tunnel. Then the first egg opened completely. A young creature emerged. It moved toward us. I turned the external lights off. The chamber became completely black. For several seconds, there was silence. Then something touched the Prehistoric. A soft scraping sound traveled across the hull. Once. Twice. Then again. Something was crawling over us. Elena covered her mouth. I could hear her breathing. I didn't move. The thing outside dragged itself across the submarine. Then it stopped. A faint tapping came from the window. Tap. 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 I looked toward the glass. Two enormous eyes appeared. The young creature was staring directly at me. Its face was pressed against the viewport. Its mouth opened. I could see hundreds of tiny teeth. Then another face appeared beside it. Then another. The hatch was surrounded. We were trapped. Elena whispered. Turn the lights on. What? Turn them on. Why? I think they're attracted to darkness. I didn't understand. But I trusted her. I activated the lights. The creatures immediately moved away. The chamber flashed with blue-white illumination. Thousands of young animals scattered into the darkness. The enormous adult creature remained in the tunnel. It turned toward us. Then it made a sound. Not a roar. Not a growl. A deep vibration. The sound passed through the water. Every young creature stopped moving. They all turned toward the adult. Then something answered from the darkness. A much deeper sound. The entire chamber shook. Elena's face changed. What is it? I asked. She whispered. Something bigger. The adult creature backed away. For the first time, it looked afraid. Then the blue light inside the chamber went out. Complete darkness. And something enormous moved behind us. The Prehistoric's rear camera flickered. For half a second, I saw a shape. A shape larger than the entire chamber. Then the camera failed. I started the engines. The Prehistoric moved forward. The adult creature moved aside. We escaped into the tunnel. Behind us came a sound I will never forget. Thousands of young creatures screaming. At once. The noise traveled through the water like a living thing. I pushed the engines harder. We raced through the tunnel. The Asterian's hull shook. Something followed us. I could hear impacts against the outer shell. Boom. 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 The tunnel began narrowing. I couldn't turn. I couldn't stop. Then the sonar showed something ahead. The tunnel ended. A solid wall. I slammed the brakes. The Asterian stopped just meters from the rock. Elena looked at me. We're trapped. I looked at the sonar. The creature behind us was approaching. Fast. Then I noticed something. The wall in front of us wasn't rock. It had a seam. A circular seam. I moved closer. The blue light returned. It was coming from behind the wall. I touched the control panel. Nothing happened. Then the old transmission suddenly came through the speakers. The same voice. We're still here. I froze. Elena looked at me. The voice continued. We opened it. A pause. We should never have opened it. Then the transmission ended. The circular wall began to move. It rotated slowly. Stone grinding against stone. Beyond it was a corridor. But the corridor wasn't natural. It had walls. Perfectly smooth walls. And markings. Symbols. I recognized none of them. The Asterian entered. Behind us, the creature stopped. It refused to follow. That frightened me. If something that enormous was afraid to enter this place, I didn't want to know what was inside. But the door closed behind us. We had no choice. The corridor continued downward. Our depth indicator began malfunctioning. 6,000 meters. Then 8,000. Then 11,000. That was impossible. The ocean above us wasn't deep enough. Yet the Asterian kept descending. Finally, the corridor opened. We entered a massive underground chamber. And there it was. The source of the blue light. A structure. Not an animal. Not a geological formation. A structure. It looked like a tower. Its surface was black and smooth. At its center was a glowing blue opening. Elena stared at it. Who built this? I didn't answer. Because something moved inside. A human figure. I moved the camera closer. The figure was standing upright. Wearing an old diving suit. The suit was covered in scratches. The helmet was cracked. I zoomed in. The face inside was pale. Frozen. But unmistakably human. Elena whispered. That can't be. I recognized the suit. It belonged to the Calypso 2 expedition. The crew that disappeared in 1987. We were looking at one of them. 36 years later. Still standing. Still wearing the same suit. Then the figure moved. Its head turned toward us. The eyes opened. And the communication system activated. A voice came through. Get out. I stared at the figure. Who are you? Static. Then. Get out before it wakes. Elena leaned toward the microphone. What wakes? The figure looked upward. Its eyes widened. Then it whispered. Everything. The chamber began shaking. Dust fell from the ceiling. The blue structure started glowing brighter. The floor moved. Something enormous was rising beneath us. The sonar screen filled with static. Then a shape appeared. It was too large to measure. It wasn't inside the chamber. It was beneath the chamber. Something had been sleeping under the entire trench. The structure wasn't a building. It was a seal. A door. And we had opened it. The human figure began pounding against the glass of its helmet. Run! I reversed the Asterian. The door behind us opened. The adult creature was waiting outside. But now it wasn't alone. There were hundreds of them. All staring into the chamber. All facing the structure. All waiting. Then the floor split open. A crack appeared beneath the tower. Blue light poured through it. And something enormous moved below. The creatures outside began retreating. The first one disappeared into the darkness. Then another. Then another. They were fleeing. Elena looked at me. We have to go. I pushed the engines to maximum power. The Asterian shot through the doorway. Behind us came a sound so deep that I felt it in my bones. The tunnel began collapsing. Rock fell from above. The creatures scattered. I drove upward as fast as possible. The Asterian shook violently. Our oxygen supply was dropping. The hull pressure warning began flashing. We passed through the egg chamber. It was empty. Every egg had opened. The young creatures were gone. We continued upward. Then something struck us. The Asterian spun. I lost control. We crashed into the tunnel wall. The lights went out. For a moment, there was complete silence. Then Elena said, "Daniel." I looked at her. She was staring through the rear camera. "What's wrong?" "Look." I turned toward the screen. The giant creature was behind us. But it wasn't attacking. It was swimming upward. Away from the trench. And behind it were hundreds more. They were escaping. I watched them disappear into the darkness above. Then I understood. They weren't hunting us. They were running from something. Something beneath them. Something that had just awakened. The Asterian began rising again. We climbed through the trench. 3,000 meters. 2,000. 1,000. The pressure dropped. The water became lighter. Then sunlight appeared. Real sunlight. I almost cried when I saw it. The Asterian broke the surface. The Meridian was waiting. Crew members pulled us aboard. I climbed out of the submarine barely able to stand. Dr. Elena Voss came behind me. She was silent. The captain asked what happened. Neither of us answered. Then the sonar specialist ran toward us. His face was white. "Daniel." "What?" He pointed toward the main sonar display. "We've got contacts." "Where?" He looked at the ocean. "Everywhere." I walked to the screen. The sonar showed hundreds of large shapes moving upward from the trench. Some were heading north. Others south. Some were moving toward the coast. I looked at Elena. "What did we release?" She didn't answer. That night, we sent the expedition's data to several research institutions. The next morning, our communications systems were remotely disabled. The recordings disappeared. The sonar data disappeared. Every copy of the footage was erased. Except one. The footage from my personal backup drive. I still have it. I watched it once. Only once. There is one frame that I never showed anyone. It was captured just before we escaped the underground chamber. The camera was pointed toward the structure. The blue light was glowing. The human figure was standing beside it. But there was something else in the frame. Behind the figure. A second silhouette. Much taller. Much thinner. It was standing inside the blue opening. Watching us. And now, whenever I look at the frame, I notice something different. The silhouette wasn't looking at the submarine. It was looking directly at the camera. As if it knew someone would eventually watch the recording. as if it knew we would bring the image back to the surface. And there is one final detail. 3 weeks after our expedition returned, a fishing vessel disappeared approximately 400 miles from the trench. No storm. No distress call. No wreckage. Only an empty boat. But the fishermen had left one thing behind. Their sonar recorder. When investigators recovered it, they found a final recording. At 3:17 in the morning, the sonar detected something beneath the boat. Something enormous. The fisherman who made the recording whispered one sentence. "They're coming up." Then the recording ended. The ocean remained silent for 6 seconds. Then something answered. 3 deep pulses. Boom. 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 The same sound we heard beneath the prehistoric sea. And that is why I no longer believe the deepest parts of our oceans are unexplored. I believe they are hidden. There is a difference. Unexplored means nobody has been there. Hidden means something doesn't want us there. And somewhere beneath the Pacific Ocean, beneath miles of black water and ancient rock, there is a place where something survived for millions of years. Something that remembers a world before humans existed. Something that was asleep. Until we opened the door. And if the sonar recordings are correct, it isn't staying down there anymore. The deepest place on Earth is not completely dark. That was the first thing Captain Elias Ward learned when he made his final descent. There are organisms down there that create their own light. Tiny flashes. Pulses. Glowing trails that disappear almost as quickly as they appear. But sometimes, far below the surface, you can see a light that isn't produced by any living thing. And if you see that light, you should never follow it. The Mariana expedition was supposed to prove that. Instead, it disappeared. The expedition began with a simple question. Could life survive at the absolute limits of the ocean? Dr. Mara Bennett believed the answer was yes. She had spent 15 years studying organisms found near hydrothermal vents, places where superheated water escaped through cracks in the Earth's crust. But she wasn't interested in ordinary deep-sea creatures. She wanted something older. Something that had survived. Her theory was controversial. She believed certain isolated regions of the deep ocean had remained almost completely unchanged for millions of years. If that was true, she argued, then some ancient species might still exist in those environments. Not fossils. Not descendants. Living animals. The expedition was designed to search for them. There were 6 people aboard the research vessel Horizon. Captain Elias Ward. Dr. Mara Bennett. Marine biologist Jonah Price. Geologist Samuel Reed. Submersible engineer Victor Hale. And me. My name is Thomas Avery. I was responsible for recording the expedition and operating the external camera systems. At the time, I thought I had the safest job on the ship. I was wrong. The first 4 days were uneventful. We collected water samples. Mapped the seafloor. Studied microscopic organisms. Everything looked normal. Then, on the 5th night, the sonar detected something unusual. A vertical structure. It rose nearly 400 meters from the trench floor. At first, Samuel though. It was a volcanic formation. But the sonar showed straight lines. Perfect angles. A series of enormous ridges running upward. It looked almost like a tower. There were no known structures in that part of the trench. Samuel stared at the display. Run it again. The sonar operator repeated the scan. The same image appeared. Mara leaned closer. Could it be an underwater volcano? Samuel shook his head. No. How do you know? Because volcanoes don't have corners. Nobody laughed. We all knew what he meant. The structure had corners. Straight ones. Sharp ones. Almost architectural. Captain Ward ordered another scan. This time, the sonar detected an opening near the bottom. A tunnel. Mara immediately wanted to send the submersible. Captain Ward refused. Not tonight. Mara argued. We've already traveled halfway across the Pacific. And we don't know what that thing is. That's why we need to investigate it. Captain Ward looked at the sonar screen. Then at her. Tomorrow morning. Mara wasn't happy. But she agreed. At 6:30 the next morning, the submersible was ready. It was called the Leviathan. It had been designed for extreme depth research. 2 people could fit inside. Mara would pilot it. Victor would accompany her. I watched them enter. Before the hatch closed, Mara looked at me. Record everything. I will. Even if it looks boring. Especially if it looks boring. She smiled. Then the hatch sealed. The Leviathan descended. We watched the live camera feed from the control room. At 1,000 meters, sunlight disappeared. At 3,000 meters, the water became completely black. At 5,000, the pressure alarms began registering. The Leviathan continued. 6,000. 7,000. 8,000. The sonar structure appeared again. It was waiting below. Mara guided the submarine toward it. The first thing they saw was the wall. It was enormous. Black. Smooth. Covered in strange grooves. The Leviathan's lights traveled across the surface. Nothing moved. Victor's voice came through the radio. Looks artificial. Mara replied. Agreed. They moved closer. The grooves became clearer. They weren't random. They formed patterns. Thousands of repeating symbols. Mara took photographs. Then she stopped. Victor. What? Look at the bottom. The camera moved downward. Something was carved into the wall. A shape resembling an eye. But beneath it were 3 long lines. Mara whispered. What is that? Victor didn't answer. Then the sonar detected movement. Something was approaching. Fast. Mara turned the Leviathan. Nothing appeared on camera. The sonar showed a large object moving behind them. Could be a whale. Victor laughed nervously. At 8,000 meters. The contact moved closer. 100 meters. 50. 20. Then disappeared. Mara waited. Nothing. She turned back toward the structure. The opening was directly ahead. A dark tunnel. They entered. The radio signal weakened immediately. Control, do you copy? Static. Mara tried again. Nothing. The Leviathan's lights illuminated the tunnel. The walls were covered with what looked like fossilized shells. Millions of them. Some were enormous. One was nearly 3 meters across. Victor touched the glass. Those aren't modern. Mara took another photograph. Then something appeared in the beam. A creature. It moved across the tunnel. Slowly. It had a long body. 4 limbs. And a head that seemed too small. It disappeared before they could identify it. Victor whispered. What the hell was that? Mara didn't answer. She was staring at the sonar. The creature was still there. It was following them. The tunnel narrowed. Mara slowed the submarine. The creature stayed behind. Then another contact appeared. Then another. Victor looked at the display. There are 3. Mara corrected him. 5. The number increased. 6. 7. 10. They were surrounded. But none attacked. They followed. The tunnel suddenly opened into a massive chamber. Mara stopped the Leviathan. Both of them stared. The chamber was enormous. And it was filled with water. Of course it was. But that wasn't what shocked them. The walls were covered in lights. Thousands of tiny blue lights. They looked like stars. Victor whispered. "Are those organisms?" Mara zoomed the camera. "No." "Then what are they?" "I don't know." The lights began moving. Slowly. One by one. Then all at once. The entire chamber seemed to breathe. The blue points moved across the walls in patterns. Mara recorded everything. Then the lights stopped. Every single one. At exactly the same time. The chamber went black. Victor looked at her. Why did they stop? Mara didn't answer. Something appeared behind the Leviathan. A face. It was enormous. The external camera captured only part of it. One eye. One side of the jaw. Skin covered in scars. Mara turned the submarine. The face disappeared. She switched to the rear camera. Nothing. Then the sonar began screaming. A massive contact was directly behind them. Mara accelerated. The Leviathan shot forward. The contact followed. Victor shouted. "Faster! I am!" The tunnel seemed to stretch endlessly. Mara looked at the depth indicator. 8,721 meters. Then 8,900. Then 9,100. Victor frowned. "That's impossible." Mara checked the instruments. "What?" "We're deeper than the trench floor should allow." She looked at the map. They were still descending. The tunnel wasn't horizontal. It was going down. Farther into the earth. At 9,500 meters, the Leviathan's hull began making strange noises. A metallic groan. Then another. Mara slowed down. Victor said. "Don't." "What?" "Don't slow down." "Why?" He pointed toward the rear camera. Something was there. It was following them. But now they could see it clearly. The creature had a body like an enormous eel. But its head was different. It had 2 long rows of teeth. Its eyes were completely black. And along its body were dozens of small glowing organs. It moved without moving its fins. It simply slid through the water. Like a snake. Mara whispered. "How big?" Victor looked at the measurement display. Then his face changed. At least 60 meters. The creature opened its mouth. The Leviathan's lights reflected from its teeth. Mara accelerated. The tunnel narrowed. The creature followed. Then the tunnel ended. A wall. Mara slammed the brakes. The Leviathan stopped. Victor looked behind them. The creature was approaching. Slowly. Mara tried to reverse. The engines responded. But the submarine wouldn't move. Something had attached itself to the hull. Victor checked the external cameras. Nothing. Then the Leviathan moved. Not backward. Down. The floor beneath them opened. The submarine dropped into darkness. Mara screamed. Victor grabbed the console. The Leviathan fell hundreds of meters. Then hit water again. The impact nearly knocked them unconscious. Mara checked the instruments. Depth. 10,487 meters. Victor stared at the number. "We're below the Mariana Trench." Mara looked at him. "We're not supposed to be." The sonar displayed something beneath them. A massive empty chamber. Then another. Then another. An entire network beneath the trench. Victor whispered. "There's a world down here." Mara stared at the sonar. "No." "What?" "Not a world." She pointed toward the screen. "It's a nest." The Leviathan's lights flickered. Something moved in the darkness ahead. Then hundreds of tiny lights appeared. Not on the walls. In the water. They were eyes. Hundreds of them. The creatures began surrounding the submarine. Mara turned the Leviathan. The engines wouldn't start. Victor tried the backup system. Nothing. The creatures moved closer. One reached the glass. It had a long, pale face. Its mouth opened. Mara froze. The creature had a human-like jaw. Not human. But disturbingly similar. Victor whispered. "That's not possible." Then the creature tapped the glass. Once. Twice. 3 times. Another creature joined it. Then another. Soon dozens were tapping against the submarine. Tap. 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 The sound echoed through the cabin. Mara looked terrified. "Why are they doing that?" Victor didn't answer. Then someone spoke through the radio. A human voice. Weak. Distorted. "Don't answer them." Mara froze. "Who is this?" Static. Then. "Turn off your lights." Victor looked at her. The voice continued. "They can see you." Mara switched off the lights. The cabin became black. The tapping stopped. Silence. For several seconds, nothing happened. Then the voice returned. "Good." Mara whispered. "Who are you?" "I was on the first expedition." Mara's eyes widened. There was no first expedition. A pause. Then. "That's what they told you." Victor stared at the radio. "Where are you?" The answer came slowly. "Below you." Mara looked at the floor. The voice continued. "You need to leave." "We can't." "Why?" "The engines are dead." Silence. Then the voice said something that made both of them go cold. "That's because they're holding you." Mara looked through the glass. The darkness outside seemed empty. Then the sonar activated by itself. A shape appeared directly beneath them. Something enormous. Far larger than the creature surrounding the submarine. Victor whispered. "What is that?" The voice answered. "The mother." Mara's face went pale. "What mother?" The voice became almost impossible to hear. "The one that remembers." Then the radio died. For several seconds, there was only silence. Then the Leviathan's lights turned on by themselves. Mara screamed. The creatures were gone. Every single one. The chamber was empty. But directly ahead of the submarine was a massive opening. It looked like a cave. Except the edges were perfectly circular. And something inside was glowing. Mara stared at it. Victor whispered. "Don't go in." The Leviathan began moving forward. Mara fought the controls. "I can't stop it." The submarine entered the opening. Inside was a tunnel. But this tunnel was different. The walls were covered with hundreds of human objects. Old diving helmets. Tools. Pieces of submarines. Camera equipment. Personal belongings. Victor recognized one. A watch. He stared at it. "My father had that." Mara looked at him. "What?" Victor reached toward the glass. "My father disappeared in 1998. The watch was floating inside a metal cage. Exactly where it had been left." Victor's breathing became unsteady. He was part of a deep-sea survey. Mara whispered. "You never told me. I didn't know this is where he went." The Leviathan moved deeper. More objects appeared. Photographs. Research badges. Pieces of equipment. Dozens of them. From different expeditions. Different decades. All lost. All here. At the end of the tunnel was a massive chamber. And inside that chamber was something alive. Something so large that the Leviathan's lights couldn't illuminate its entire body. They saw only fragments. A ridge. A fin. A long curved surface. Then one enormous eye opened. It filled the entire camera. Mara stopped breathing. The eye looked directly at them. The creature moved. The chamber shook. Victor whispered. "It's awake." Then the radio came alive one final time. The human voice returned. But this time, it wasn't warning them. It was screaming. "Run!" Mara tried to reverse. The Leviathan wouldn't move. The creature opened its mouth. And inside its mouth were dozens of smaller creatures. All staring at the submarine. Then the mother made a sound. A sound that traveled through the water. The surrounding chamber began to crack. And far above them, thousands of meters beneath the surface, something answered. Another sound. Then another. Mara looked at the sonar. Her face went completely white. "Victor." "What?" "There isn't just one." He looked at the screen. Hundreds of massive contacts were moving upward. Not toward them. Toward the surface. Victor whispered. "They're leaving." Mara stared at the enormous eye. The creature wasn't looking at them anymore. It was looking upward. As if it had finally remembered where the surface was. Then the Leviathan began rising. Not because the engines had restarted. Something else was lifting it. Something enormous. Something carrying them toward the surface. And as the submarine began its impossible ascent, Mara heard a final sound through the radio. A human voice. Very close. Almost inside the cabin. "Whatever you do." A pause. "Don't let it see the sky." Then the voice disappeared. And the Leviathan continued rising toward the surface. Carrying something with it. The Leviathan was rising. But it wasn't under our control. Mara had tried every emergency system. The engines were dead. The ballast controls were frozen. The navigation system was useless. Yet the submarine continued moving upward. Slowly at first. Then faster. The depth indicator changed. 10,500 meters. 10,200. 9,900. Mara stared at the numbers. Something is carrying us. Victor looked through the forward viewport. There was nothing there. Only darkness. Then the submarine shook. A deep vibration passed through the hull. Victor grabbed the console. "Did you feel that?" Mara nodded. Another vibration. Boom. The sound seemed to come from below. Then another. Boom. Boom. Victor looked at the sonar. The enormous creature was following them. Not chasing. Following. Its body filled the lower half of the display. And surrounding it were hundreds of smaller contacts. All moving upward. Mara whispered. "They're coming with us." Victor shook his head. "No." "What?" "They're not following us." He pointed toward the sonar. "They're following it." Mara stared at the screen. The creatures were surrounding the giant. Almost protecting it. Or perhaps escorting it. The Leviathan continued upward. At 9,000 meters, the radio suddenly activated. Static filled the cabin. Then a voice. Leviathan, respond. Mara grabbed the transmitter. Control, this is Leviathan. A burst of static. Then Captain Ward's voice. Where are you? Mara looked at Victor. She didn't know what to say. Below the trench. Silence. Then. That's impossible. We know. Your position disappeared from our systems 3 hours ago. Mara frowned. 3 hours? Victor looked at his watch. Only 20 minutes had passed. Mara checked the clock. The time on the submarine was wrong. Almost 3 hours had vanished. Captain Ward came back over the radio. Your depth. Mara hesitated. 9,000 meters. There was silence. Then the captain said, "That's not your current depth." What? According to the emergency beacon, you're already at 2,000 meters. Mara looked at the depth indicator. It still showed 9,000. Captain, that's impossible. I know. The radio crackled. Then Captain Ward said something that changed everything. There's another Leviathan on the surface. Mara froze. What? You're submersible. No. It's sitting beside the horizon. Mara stared at Victor. He looked terrified. The captain continued. We can see it. Mara whispered. That's not us. I know. What happened to the other one? We don't know. A long pause. Then Captain Ward asked. Who is inside your submarine? Mara looked around the cabin. Me and Victor. The captain answered immediately. Then who is inside the other one? Static. Then screaming. The transmission ended. Mara tried to reconnect. Nothing. Victor looked at the sonar. Something is wrong. The Leviathan continued rising. 7,000 meters. 6,500. 6,000. Then the creature below them stopped. All the smaller creatures stopped too. The Leviathan continued upward without them. Mara watched the sonar. The enormous shape disappeared into the darkness. Victor whispered. It's staying down there. Why? He looked at her. Maybe it can't come any higher. Mara didn't answer. For the first time, she felt hope. Maybe they could escape. Maybe the thing below was trapped. Maybe the surface was safe. Then the sonar pinged. One contact. Directly above them. Mara looked at the display. A large object was descending. Toward them. Victor frowned. Another submarine. Mara checked the signal. No. What is it? She couldn't answer. The object was moving too fast. It passed them. A huge shadow crossed the forward camera. Mara switched to the rear camera. Nothing. Then the sonar showed it again. Above them. It was circling. Victor whispered. It's one of them. Mara's hope disappeared. The creature had followed them. But how? The radio activated. A voice spoke. Don't let it reach the surface. Mara recognized it. The voice from the first expedition. Who are you? The answer came immediately. Someone who made the same mistake. Mara looked at Victor. What mistake? Silence. Then. We thought the creatures were trapped. Mara waited. We were wrong. The voice continued. They weren't trapped. They were waiting. The radio went dead. The Leviathan continued rising. 5,000 meters. 4,000. 3,000. The water slowly became lighter. At 2,500 meters, they saw the first traces of natural light. Mara stared at the blue water. After everything they had seen, sunlight felt almost unreal. Then the creature appeared again. It was above them. Waiting. Its enormous body blocked the light. Mara stopped the Leviathan. For the first time, the submarine's controls responded. She reversed. The creature moved closer. Its mouth opened. Inside were rows of teeth. But Mara noticed something else. A wound. A huge scar ran across its head. The same markings they had seen on the ancient walls. The creature had been injured. Maybe by the structure. Maybe by humans. Maybe by something older. It looked at the submarine. Then it moved aside. Mara didn't understand. She cautiously continued upward. The creature followed. At 1,500 meters, the Leviathan's radio came alive. Captain Ward was shouting. "Do not surface." Mara grabbed the transmitter. "Why?" "We found something." "What?" "The other Leviathan." Mara's blood went cold. "What happened?" "It opened." "What do you mean?" "We sent a drone inside." The captain's voice became quieter. There was no one inside. Mara looked at Victor. Then Captain Ward said, "But there was blood." Mara felt sick. "How much?" "Enough to cover the walls." The radio crackled. Then the captain said, "Get back down." Mara stared at the surface above. "We can't." "Why?" "The thing is following us." Silence. Then Captain Ward asked, "How many?" Mara looked at the sonar. One enormous contact. Hundreds of smaller ones. "They're all around us." Captain Ward whispered. "Then we're already too late." The transmission ended. Mara continued upward. At 800 meters, the surface became visible. The horizon was above them. Its lights were shining through the water. Victor smiled. "We made it." Mara didn't smile. Something was wrong. The ship's lights were on. But there was no movement. No crew. No radio. No activity. The horizon looked abandoned. Mara tried to contact the ship. Nothing. She tried again. Still nothing. The Leviathan reached the surface. The hatch opened. Mara climbed out. The deck was empty. Victor followed. "Where is everyone?" No answer. They moved toward the control room. The door was open. Inside, the equipment was still running. Coffee sat beside the navigation console. A chair was overturned. The radio was active. But nobody was there. Mara checked the security cameras. The recordings had been erased. All except one. She opened it. The video showed the horizon's deck. 3 hours earlier. The crew was standing outside. They were looking at the ocean. Then something surfaced. The video became distorted. The crew began running. The recording ended. Victor whispered. "What surfaced?" Mara looked at the ocean. Nothing. Then the ship moved. Not forward. Down. The horizon tilted. Victor grabbed the railing. "What the hell?" Mara looked over the side. Something enormous was beneath the ship. The water around the vessel began glowing blue. The same blue light. The same light from below the trench. Mara understood. The creature had reached the surface. Not physically. Something else had reached the surface. A light appeared beneath the ship. Then another. Then hundreds. The ocean around. A woman standing beside the old submersible. She looked exactly like Mara. Same face. Same eyes. Same scar above her eyebrow. But the photograph was taken 28 years earlier. Mara stepped away from the computer. No. She refused to look at it. Then she asked me something I will never forget. Thomas. Yes. Do you remember me before this expedition? I stared at her. Of course. She shook her head. No. Her voice was trembling. You don't. She pointed toward the photograph. Because that's me. I didn't know what to say. She continued. I remember this. She touched the screen. I remember going down. I stared at her. What happened? She closed her eyes. I don't know. Then she opened them. And for the first time, I noticed something strange. Her pupils looked different. Almost completely black. Mara looked at me. I remember the chamber. The mother. She nodded. I remember waking it. Then how did you survive? She didn't answer. Instead, she walked toward the window. Outside, the ocean was calm. Too calm. Then she whispered. It didn't let me die. I felt a chill. What does that mean? Mara turned toward me. It needed someone to bring it back. The room became silent. Then the lights went out. Every screen shut down. The emergency generator activated. And the radio turned on by itself. A voice came through. Not human. Not completely. It sounded like hundreds of voices speaking at once. Then one clear sentence emerged. We remember the surface. Mara looked terrified. The radio continued. We remember the sky. Then the voice whispered. We are coming home. The transmission ended. 3 days later, Mara disappeared. No security footage showed her leaving. No ship recorded her boarding, her room was locked from the inside. The only thing she left behind was a note. 4 words. Do not follow the light. I kept the note. I still have it. But the story doesn't end there. Because 6 months later, a research satellite detected something unusual in the Pacific. A circular patch of blue light beneath the surface. It moved. Slowly. Toward the coast. Scientists initially believed it was a biological phenomenon. Then they realized the light was traveling against the current. Against the wind. Against the natural movement of the ocean. It was moving intentionally. Toward land. And every night, it came closer. Then something happened that terrified the scientists monitoring it. The light split into hundreds of smaller lights. The same lights we had seen thousands of meters below the trench. The creatures were spreading. They weren't escaping. They were migrating. And they weren't migrating randomly. They were following something. A signal. A call. Something from beneath the ocean floor. The last satellite image was taken at 3:12 in the morning. It showed a dark shape beneath the water. Massive. Impossible to measure. Around it were hundreds of glowing points. The shape was moving toward the coastline. Then the satellite lost contact. No explanation was ever given. But I know what happened. Because 3 weeks later, I received a message. There was no sender. No address. No number. Just an image. A photograph of the ocean at night. At first, I saw nothing. Then I noticed the light. A small blue glow beneath the waves. And standing on the beach in the foreground was Mara. She was facing the ocean. Her back was toward the camera. Beside her stood another figure. Much taller. Much thinner. I zoomed in. The figure turned toward the camera. Its face was barely visible. But I could see its eyes. Black. Completely black. Then another message arrived. 5 words. She wants you to dive. I deleted the message. I deleted the image. I destroyed the computer. But sometimes, late at night, I still hear something. Free slow. Knocks. Not at my door. Not at my window. From beneath the floor. Tap. 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 And every time it happens, I remember what Mara said. The creatures weren't trapped. They were waiting. Waiting for someone to open the door. Waiting for someone to show them the way back. And now I understand the final warning. Don't let it see the sky. Because the thing beneath the prehistoric sea doesn't belong in our world. It belongs somewhere older. Somewhere darker. Somewhere beneath millions of years of water and stone. But if the expedition taught me anything, it is this. The deepest parts of the ocean are not empty. They are not dead. They are not silent. They are full of things that have been waiting longer than humanity has existed. And sometimes, the worst thing you can discover at the bottom of the ocean isn't a monster. It's a door. Because monsters can be killed. Doors can be opened. And once something comes through, there may be no way to close them again. There is a place in the ocean where the water moves in the wrong direction. Currents flow downward instead of upward. Temperature changes without warning. Sound travels farther than it should. And according to an old research report, there is a layer of water so isolated from the rest of the ocean that it may have been trapped there for millions of years. Most scientists call it an ancient water pocket. But the crew of the research vessel Ardent called it something else. The grave. Because everything that entered it came back dead. The first expedition discovered the anomaly in 1974. They were studying deep ocean currents when their instruments detected a strange layer almost 5 kilometers below the surface. The water chemistry was completely different. It contained unusually high concentrations of minerals. The temperature was several degrees warmer than the surrounding ocean. And most disturbing of all, there was almost no oxygen. Yet something was living there. Thousands of things. The expedition sent down a remotely operated camera. It returned 12 minutes later. The camera was covered in scratches. The cable had been bitten through. And the final 12 seconds of footage showed something moving behind it. The expedition was cancelled. The anomaly was marked as unstable and left alone. For almost 50 years, nobody returned. Then, in 2024, Dr. Adrian Cole decided to go back. He believed the original expedition had misunderstood what they found. He thought the water pocket wasn't dangerous. He thought it was simply an isolated ecosystem. He was wrong. And I know because I was there. My name is Marcus Reed. I was the navigation officer aboard the Ardent. There were 8 of us on the expedition. Dr. Adrian Cole was the lead oceanographer. Dr. Lena Morris studied prehistoric marine biology. Captain James Holloway commanded the ship. Ethan Shaw was our sonar specialist. 2 engineers handled the submersible. And I was responsible for navigation and external communications. Our mission was simple. Locate the ancient water pocket. Collect samples. Deploy cameras. And leave. We were never supposed to enter it. That rule lasted exactly 9 hours. The first strange thing happened before we even reached the anomaly. Our sonar began detecting movement beneath the ship. Slow movement. Very deep. At first, Ethan assumed it was geological activity. Then the contact changed direction. It began following us. I watched the sonar screen. A single massive return remained almost 6 kilometers beneath us. It never approached. It never moved away. It simply followed. Ethan frowned. How big is it? I asked. He adjusted the settings. Hard to tell. Give me an estimate. He stared at the screen. At least 70 meters. Captain Holloway walked over. Whale. Ethan shook his head. Too deep. Submarine. No. Then what? Ethan didn't answer. Captain Holloway looked at him. Ethan. I don't know. The contact disappeared 30 minutes later. Nobody mentioned it again. Until that evening. At 11:43 p.m., the Ardent's temperature sensors registered a sudden drop. The air on the lower deck became noticeably cold. Then the ship's lights flickered. Once. Twice. And every electronic clock aboard the vessel stopped for exactly 11 seconds. Nobody knew why. When they restarted, they were all 11 seconds behind. Except one. The clock inside the submersible. It was 11 seconds ahead. Dr. Cole found that interesting. I found it disturbing. The next morning, we reached the anomaly. The ocean looked completely normal. Flat. Dark blue. Almost peaceful. Nothing about it suggested that something was wrong below. We lowered the first sensor package. It descended to 4,000 meters. Everything looked normal. At 4,300 meters, the temperature changed. At 4,500, the oxygen level dropped. At 4,700, the sensor stopped responding. Then the cable began vibrating. The operator tried to pull it back. The cable snapped. The sensor disappeared. Dr. Cole wasn't concerned. We'll use the submersible. Captain Holloway looked at him. You said we weren't entering the pocket. We're not entering it. We're sending equipment. The submersible is equipment. Holloway didn't smile. Cole did. 3 hours later, the submersible was ready. It was called the Atlas. A two-person deep-sea vehicle built for extreme pressure environments. Dr. Lena Morris volunteered to go down. I was surprised. She wasn't a pilot. But she knew the biology better than anyone. Cole joined her. Before they descended, Captain Holloway gave them one instruction. Stay above the oxygen boundary. Lena nodded. We will. Cole didn't say anything. The Atlas entered the water. The descent was smooth. We watched through the control room cameras. 1,000 meters. 2,000. 3. 4. At 4,300 meters, the water temperature dropped. At 4,500, the instruments began behaving strangely. At 4,700, the oxygen level fell almost to zero. Lena's voice came through the radio. We've reached the boundary. Captain Holloway answered. Confirm position. Confirmed. Cole looked at the readings. Then said, let's go through. Holloway immediately responded. No. Cole ignored him. Marcus, mark our position. I hesitated. Then Captain Holloway shouted. Do not cross the boundary. Cole switched off the radio. The control room became silent. Lena's voice returned. Adrian. What? We shouldn't. We're already here. The readings are wrong. Exactly. Cole sounded excited. That's why we're here. The Atlas descended. The moment it crossed the boundary, the camera changed. The water became black. Not dark black. Our lights illuminated only a few meters. The particles in the water were different too. They moved slowly. Almost like ash. Lena whispered. What are those? Cole adjusted the microscope camera. Organic material. From what? I don't know. The Atlas continued. Then something passed through the light. A fish. At first, it looked ordinary. Then it turned. Its body was covered in tiny transparent scales. Its mouth opened. There were no teeth. Only a circular opening. It disappeared. Another passed. Then another. Soon dozens appeared. Lena watched them. They're blind. Cole shook his head. No. He zoomed in. They have eyes. Where? Under the skin. She stared. Two dark shapes moved beneath the creature's transparent head. Then the fish all turned in the same direction. Lena noticed. They're looking at something. Cole looked at the sonar. Nothing. Then the atlas shook. A heavy vibration passed through the hull. The sonar activated. One contact. Directly below. Cole smiled. There. Lena looked worried. That's the same contact we detected yesterday. The contact moved. Slowly. Then stopped. Cole moved the atlas downward. The contact disappeared. He moved again. It appeared. Almost as if something was playing with them. Then the sonar returned an image. The shape was huge. But not 70 meters. Much larger. The reading stretched beyond the screen. Lena whispered. How big is that? Cole didn't answer. Then something struck the atlas. Hard. The cabin shook. Warning lights flashed. Lena grabbed her seat. What was that? Cole checked the external cameras. Nothing. He looked at the hull pressure. Stable. Then the sonar showed the contact. It was directly above them. Lena frowned. We're being followed. Cole looked up. The camera showed nothing. Then something entered the light. A long appendage. Pale. Flexible. It moved slowly across the front of the atlas. Lena froze. That's not a tentacle. Cole zoomed in. The appendage had joints. 3 of them. And each joint was covered with rows of tiny hooks. It disappeared into darkness. Cole whispered. What kind of animal has limbs like that? Lena answered. One we haven't discovered. Then another appendage appeared. This one passed beneath the atlas. Then another. The sonar suddenly filled with noise. The creature was everywhere. Lena shouted. Go up. Cole pushed the controls. The atlas began ascending. The appendages followed. They weren't attacking. They were surrounding the submarine. Cole accelerated. The atlas reached the boundary. Then stopped. The engines were running. But the submarine wouldn't move. Lena looked at the instruments. Something is holding us. Cole stared at the external camera. The appendages had wrapped around the atlas. One touched the front window. It slowly curled around the glass. Lena whispered. Don't move. Cole stopped touching the controls. The appendage remained there. Then something appeared behind it. An eye. Huge. Pale. Almost completely transparent. It looked directly into the cabin. Lena couldn't move. The eye blinked. Once. Then the creature withdrew. The atlas suddenly shot upward. They crossed the boundary. The oxygen levels returned to normal. The creatures disappeared. Cole looked at Lena. Neither spoke. Then the radio came alive. Captain Holloway was shouting. Atlas, respond. Cole grabbed the transmitter. We're here. Are you injured? No. Then explain why your oxygen readings went to 0. Cole looked at the instrument panel. The oxygen indicator was normal. That's impossible. Holloway replied. That's what I'm looking at. Cole frowned. What are you seeing? Silence. Then. Your submersible has been underwater for 6 hours. Lena stared at Cole. That's not possible. They had been inside the pocket for less than 40 minutes. Cole checked the clock. It showed 12:17 p.m., the surface control room's clock showed 6:04 p.m. Almost 6 hours had disappeared. Captain Holloway sounded frightened. Get back aboard. The Atlas began rising. But halfway to the surface, the radio stopped working. The water around them became dark again. Lena looked at the clock. It was moving backward. 12:16. 12:15. 12:14. Cole stared. What is happening? Then the Atlas stopped. They were no longer moving upward. Something had them. Lena looked through the rear camera. The creature was there. But this time they could see its full body. It was enormous. Long. Almost serpentine. Its body disappeared into the darkness below. But its head was directly behind the Atlas. It had 4 eyes. 2 on each side of its skull. Its mouth was vertical. And when it opened it, hundreds of teeth became visible. Cole whispered. That's prehistoric. Lena shook her head. No. What? It's older. The creature moved closer. Then it did something neither of them expected. It opened its mouth. Inside was a faint red glow. A sound came through the water. Not a roar. A pulse. The Atlas instruments reacted. Every screen turned on. A map appeared. Not a map of the ocean. A map of something beneath it. Thousands of tunnels. Huge chambers. Entire underground caverns. And one massive circular structure at the center. Lena stared. What is that? Cole whispered. I don't know. Then the map changed. A red line appeared. It traveled from the circular structure upward. Through the tunnels. Toward the surface. Lena's face went pale. Adrian. I see it. The line stopped beneath their ship. Cole realized what it meant. The creature wasn't trying to attack them. It was showing them something. Something beneath the ocean floor. Something that had been there long before humans existed. Then a new symbol appeared on the screen. A circle. Inside it was a single eye. The same symbol they had seen on the creature. The same symbol appeared on the walls of the underground tunnels. Lena whispered. It's communicating. Cole looked at her. With us? She shook her head. No. She pointed toward the surface. With something up there. The Atlas began moving. Not upward. Downward. Cole fought the controls. Nothing worked. The creature was pulling them deeper. The water became completely black. Then the Atlas passed through another boundary. The instruments went crazy. Temperature. Unknown. Pressure. Unknown. Depth. Unknown. Time. Unknown. The clock stopped. The sonar went silent. And then they saw it. A city. Not ruins. Not rocks. A city. Massive towers rose from the darkness. They were covered in strange glowing organisms. Structures connected by enormous arches. Roads or channels crossed the seafloor. And everywhere, there were shapes moving. Thousands of them. Some looked like fish. Some looked like reptiles. Some had limbs. Others had bodies unlike anything Lena had ever seen. They were living in the darkness. A prehistoric ecosystem. But the city wasn't built for them. It was built by something else. At the center stood the circular structure from the map. A giant black door. And the door was open. Cole whispered. "That's impossible." Lena stared. "No." "What?" "Look at the door." Something was standing inside. A silhouette. Humanoid. Tall. Thin. Motionless. Cole moved the atlas closer. The silhouette raised one hand. The creature outside suddenly stopped moving. Every animal in the city stopped. The entire underwater world became silent. Then the figure turned toward them. And the atlas received a transmission. Not through the radio. Through every speaker. Every screen. Every instrument. One sentence appeared. "We have been waiting." Lena covered her mouth. Cole stared at the message. Then another sentence appeared. "You brought the way out." The atlas began moving toward the door. And somewhere far above them, on the surface of the ocean, every ship's navigation system suddenly pointed toward the same location. Toward the ancient water pocket. Toward the black door. Toward something that had been waiting beneath the sea for millions of years. And on the horizon, Captain Holloway looked at the sonar screen. His face went pale. Because the enormous contact beneath them had begun moving upward. And it wasn't alone. Thousands of smaller contacts were following it. Then the ship's radio crackled. A voice came through. It sounded like Lena. But Lena was still inside the atlas. The voice whispered. "Captain." A pause. "Don't let us come back." Then the transmission ended. Captain Holloway stared at the ocean. And beneath the ship. Something opened its eyes. The eyes opened beneath the horizon. Captain James Holloway stared at the sonar screen. For several seconds, he couldn't move. The enormous contact beneath the ship had stopped rising. It was simply there. Directly below them. Then another contact appeared. Then another. Then hundreds. The sonar display filled with movement. Ethan Shaw looked at the screen. "Captain." Holloway didn't answer. Ethan swallowed. "Those things are moving toward the surface." "I know." "How many?" "I don't know." The sonar continued filling. Thousands of small contacts. Dozens of enormous ones. And beneath them all was one massive shape. The largest contact they had ever recorded. Holloway reached for the radio. "Atlas, respond." Static. "Atlas, this is Horizon." Nothing. Then a voice came through. "Captain." It was Lena. Holloway grabbed the microphone. "Lena, where are you?" Static. Then. "Below." "How far below?" A pause. "Too far." Holloway looked at Ethan. "Can you locate them?" Ethan checked the tracking system. The screen flickered. Their position appeared. Then disappeared. Then appeared again. But the coordinates made no sense. Ethan whispered. "They're moving." "Where?" "Down." Holloway stared at the screen. "How deep?" Ethan hesitated. 16,000 meters. Holloway shook his head. "Impossible." "I know." Then the radio activated again. This time Lena was screaming. "Captain, don't let it reach the surface." Holloway leaned toward the speaker. "What is it?" "Static." Then Lena whispered. "It isn't one creature." A pause. "There are thousands." The transmission ended. Holloway immediately ordered the ship to move. The Horizon's engines roared. But the ship didn't move. Ethan looked toward the navigation console. "Captain." "What now?" "The anchors." "What about them?" "They're not deployed." Holloway stared. "Then why aren't we moving?" Ethan looked at the sonar. Something had wrapped itself around the ship. The sonar showed enormous shapes surrounding the horizon. They were attached to the hull. Holloway ordered full power. The engines screamed. The ship remained still. Then the lights went out. The ocean became completely black. For several seconds, there was no sound. Then something struck the hull. Boom. The entire ship shook. Another impact. Boom. A third. Boom. Ethan whispered. "They're testing us." Holloway looked at him. "What?" "They aren't attacking." Another impact. "They're trying to find a way inside." Holloway ordered everyone to the upper deck. The crew grabbed emergency equipment. They had barely reached the stairs when the lights returned. And through the windows, they saw blue lights beneath the ship. Hundreds. Then thousands. The ocean was glowing. The creatures were surrounding the horizon. Some were small. Others were enormous. And below them all was the ancient creature. Its enormous body was barely visible. Then the surface water began to rise. Not the waves. The entire ocean, a massive column of water lifted beneath the ship. The horizon tilted. Crew members fell. Holloway grabbed the railing. "What is happening?" Ethan stared over the side. "The water is moving." "Where?" "Down." Holloway looked. A gigantic depression was forming beneath the ship. The ocean was sinking into something below. A whirlpool appeared. But it wasn't rotating. It was opening. Like a hole. The blue lights disappeared into it. One after another. Then the enormous creature vanished. The ocean became still. The horizon was floating above a perfect circle of black water. No waves. No wind. No current. Nothing. Then the radio came alive. A voice whispered. "Captain." Holloway recognized it. Lena. But something was wrong with her voice. It sounded deeper. Almost as if another voice was speaking underneath hers. "Captain." Holloway answered. "Lena. Don't come down." "Where are you?" "Inside." "Inside what?" Silence. Then. "The city." Holloway looked at Ethan. "The city?" Lena's voice returned. "We found it." "Are you alive?" A pause. "Not for long." The transmission ended. Holloway ordered the emergency submersible prepared. But before anyone could move, another transmission came through. This one was Adrian Cole. His voice was calm. Too calm. "Captain." Holloway grabbed the radio. "Adrian, where are you?" "Below." "Are you with Lena?" "Yes." "Can you get back to the surface?" Silence. Then Cole answered. "We don't think the surface is safe anymore." Holloway looked at the ocean. "What happened?" Cole whispered. "We opened the door. The radio died." Holloway didn't understand. Then he noticed something. A small blue light was floating beside the ship. It wasn't below the water. It was on the surface. It moved toward the horizon. Holloway stepped backward. The light stopped beside him. Then it rose into the air. A tiny sphere. Glowing blue. It floated directly in front of his face. Inside the light was something moving. A shape. A tiny creature. It had no visible mouth. No visible eyes. But Holloway could feel it watching him. Then it spoke. Not through the radio. Inside his head. "Home." Holloway dropped to his knees. The sphere disappeared. Ethan grabbed him. "Captain." Holloway looked at him. His face was white. It said one word. What? Home. Then the ocean moved. Something enormous surfaced. Not the prehistoric creature. A structure. A black tower rose from the water. It emerged slowly. Water poured from its surface. It was impossible. It shouldn't have existed. It was hundreds of meters tall. Smooth. Black. Covered in the same symbols they had seen thousands of meters below. The tower continued rising. Then stopped. A blue light appeared at its center. A door. The same door. The same one Lena and Adrian had discovered. It had reached the surface. Holloway stared. What the hell is that? Ethan didn't answer. Because something walked out. A tall figure. Humanoid. Thin. Completely black. Its skin reflected no light. It stepped onto the surface of the ocean. And it didn't sink. It simply stood there. Looking at the ship. Holloway couldn't move. The figure raised its head. Then the sky changed. Clouds began forming above it. Not storm clouds. Something else. The clouds moved in perfect circles. The figure lifted one hand. Every electronic device on the horizon turned on. The navigation system. The radios. The computers. The emergency lights. Every screen displayed the same symbol. An eye. Then a message appeared. We remember. The figure lowered its hand. The black tower began sinking. But the figure remained. It turned toward the horizon. Then it walked across the water. Slowly. Toward land. Holloway watched until it disappeared. Then the ship's engine started. Without anyone touching them. The horizon began moving. Toward the coast. The crew tried to stop it. Nothing worked. The ship was no longer responding to commands. It was following the figure. Meanwhile, thousands of meters below, Lena and Adrian were trapped inside the ancient city. The Atlas hovered before the black door. The humanoid figure had disappeared. The message remained on the screen. You brought the way out. Lena stared at it. What does that mean? Adrian didn't answer. He was looking through the window. The city had changed. The creatures were no longer moving randomly. They were forming lines. Thousands of them. All facing the door. Lena whispered. They're waiting. Adrian nodded. For what? He looked toward the center of the city. I think they're waiting for something to come through. Then the door moved. It opened wider. A deep vibration passed through the water. Every creature in the city bowed its head. Lena's eyes widened. Adrian. I see it. Something was coming. A shadow emerged from the darkness. First came a long arm. Then another. Then a head. It was not the creature they had seen outside. It was larger. Much larger. Its body was covered in dark plates. Its limbs were long and thin. And its face had no eyes. Only a vertical opening. Lena whispered. What is that? Adrian stared. The thing they were waiting for. The creature moved toward the Atlas. Lena tried to activate the engines. Nothing. The creature reached the submarine. Its hand touched the glass. The same symbol appeared. An eye. Then another. Then dozens. The entire window filled with glowing symbols. Lena screamed. The Atlas began shaking. Every instrument activated. The navigation system displayed one word. Return. Then the lights went out. The Atlas became completely dark. Lena heard breathing. Not her own. Someone was breathing inside the cabin. She turned toward Adrian. He was sitting beside her. "Adrian?" He didn't respond. His eyes were closed. Lena reached toward him. Then he opened his eyes. They were completely black. Lena froze. "Adrian?" He looked at her. But his voice wasn't his. "You should not have come here." Lena moved away. "What happened to you?" He smiled. A strange, unnatural smile. "We remember you." Lena stared. "Who?" He pointed toward the door. "The first ones." The Atlas began moving. Toward the city. Lena fought the controls. Nothing worked. They passed between enormous towers. The creatures watched. None attacked. They were afraid. Not of the Atlas. Of whatever was inside it. Lena looked at Adrian. He was still staring forward. "Where are you taking me?" He answered. "Home." Lena's heart stopped. Adrian isn't home. He turned toward her. "Adrian is gone." Then the Atlas descended. Far below the city. They entered another tunnel. The walls were covered with markings. Some were millions of years old. Others looked fresh. Lena recognized something. Human writing. Names. Dates. Expedition numbers. People had been here before. Hundreds of them. Some from decades ago. Some from centuries ago. Some dates were impossible. One inscription read, 2:35. Another, 2:40. Another, 2:50. Then Lena saw something that made her blood run cold. A name. Marcus Reed. She stared. That was my name. But the date beside it was 1894. Lena touched the glass. "That's impossible." Adrian's voice answered. "They've been calling people here for a long time." "Why?" "To remember." "Remember what?" He looked toward the darkness. The way to the surface. The tunnel opened. Lena saw something enormous. A cavern. At its center was a circular pool. Blue light came from beneath it. Around the pool stood hundreds of black figures. All humanoid. All motionless. All watching. Then one stepped forward. It looked exactly like Lena. Same face. Same hair. Same scar. Lena stared at it. "No." The copy smiled. Then another figure appeared. And another. Hundreds of copies, people from previous expeditions. All standing around the pool. Adrian whispered. "They keep what they find useful." Lena backed away. "What are they?" "Their memories." Then the pool began glowing. The copies turned toward it. Something rose. A huge shape. A creature. But unlike anything they had seen. It had a long body. Hundreds of limbs. And a head shaped like a human skull. Lena screamed. The Atlas began shaking. The creature opened its mouth. Inside were thousands of tiny blue lights. Each light was an eye. The same eye. The same symbol. The same thing they had seen everywhere. Then the creature spoke. Not with words. With memories. Lena suddenly saw the ocean surface. Then a city. Then fire. Then darkness. Then earth without oceans. Then earth covered by water again. Millions of years passed in seconds. She saw creatures crawling onto land. She saw them disappear. She saw continents move. She saw the oceans rise. And beneath everything, the black city remained. Waiting. The vision ended. Lena collapsed. When she opened her eyes, Adrian was gone. The atlas was empty. She was alone. The black door stood open ahead. A voice whispered through the cabin. "Leave." Lena looked around. "Who are you?" "Someone who escaped." "Where are you?" "Inside you." Lena froze. The voice continued. "They don't need the creatures anymore. What do they need?" Silence. Then. Us. The atlas suddenly shot upward. Lena screamed as the submarine accelerated through the tunnels. The city disappeared. The creatures vanished. The black door closed. The atlas continued rising. She passed the ancient water pocket. The oxygen boundary. The deep ocean. Then sunlight appeared. The atlas broke the surface. Lena opened the hatch. She climbed out. The ocean was calm. The Ardent was gone. No horizon. No support ship. Nothing. She was alone. For hours, she drifted. Then another vessel found her. She was taken aboard. Rescued. Interrogated. Hospitalized. Nobody believed her story. Not completely. Until the captain of the rescue ship asked one question. "Where is the Ardent?" Lena stared at him. "I don't know." He looked at her. "It arrived 3 hours ago." Her face went pale. "What?" The captain pointed toward the horizon. The Ardent was there. Floating peacefully. The entire crew was standing on deck. Including Captain Holloway. Including Ethan. Including Adrian Cole. Lena stared at the ship. "They're alive." The captain nodded. "Yes." Lena shook her head. "No." The captain frowned. "What?" "They aren't." The Ardent moved toward them. Slowly. Its crew stood perfectly still. All facing the rescue ship. Nobody waved. Nobody moved. Then Captain Holloway raised one hand. And smiled. Lena whispered. "Turn around." The rescue captain looked confused. "Why?" "Turn the ship around." "Why?" "Because those aren't my crew." The Ardent came closer. Its hull was covered in strange blue markings. The same markings from the city. The same symbols. Then every member of the crew opened their mouths. At exactly the same time. And a sound came from the ship. Not a human voice. Thousands of voices. Speaking together. "We have returned." The rescue captain ordered full speed away. The Ardent followed. For 3 hours. Then suddenly stopped. The rescue ship escaped. But Lena never forgot what she saw. Because the next morning, every major news station reported the same strange event. Ships across the Pacific had lost navigation. Satellites had malfunctioned. Deep-sea communication systems had gone offline. And several coastal towns reported seeing blue lights beneath the water. Then came the earthquakes. Small at first. Then stronger. Then enormous. The ocean floor began shifting. Scientists believed it was tectonic activity. They were wrong. Something was moving beneath the seabed. Something enormous. Something ancient. Something that had been waiting for millions of years. Then, 3 days later, the first photograph appeared. It was taken from a coastal surveillance camera. The ocean was dark. The beach was empty. But standing in the shallow water was a figure. Tall. Thin. Black. Its body reflected the moonlight. Its face had no eyes. Only a single vertical opening. Behind it, Hundreds of blue lights floated beneath the surface. The photograph went viral. Authorities called it a hoax. Then another camera captured the same figure. Then another. Then another. Different beaches. Different countries. Same figure. Same blue lights. Same direction. Always moving toward land. And then something happened that finally convinced the governments of the world that this was not a natural phenomenon. The figure stopped. At exactly the same moment, every deep-sea sensor on Earth detected a sound. 3 pulses. Boom. 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 The same sound recorded by the Ardent. The same sound from the ancient city. The same sound from beneath the prehistoric sea. Then every sensor went silent. Except one. A station in the Pacific continued recording. The final message from that station was transmitted automatically. It contained only one sentence. The ocean is not the beginning. Then the station disappeared. Nobody knows what happened to Lena after that. Some reports say she was placed in protective custody. Others say she disappeared. But there is one recording that may prove she survived. It was discovered years later on an abandoned research computer. A voice recording. Lena's voice. She sounds exhausted, terrified, and very far away. She says, "If you're hearing this, don't go looking for the ancient water pocket." A long silence follows. Then she says, "It isn't a pocket." Another pause. "It's a prison." Her breathing becomes shaky. And the creatures aren't the prisoners. Silence. Then, almost whispering, "They are the guards." The recording ends. But 10 seconds later, another sound appears. A knock. Then another. Then another. Tap. 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 And beneath the recording is a final line of text. It wasn't. Written by Lena. It reads, "The door is open." For years, I believed the story ended there. I wanted to believe it. I wanted to believe that the creatures remained beneath the ocean. That the Black City was sealed again. That the surface was safe. But last year, I received an email. No sender. No subject. Only one attachment. A photograph. It showed the ocean at night. There was a beach in the foreground. A city in the distance. And beneath the water, blue lights. Thousands of them. But that wasn't what frightened me. Standing on the beach was a woman. She was facing the ocean. I recognized her immediately. Lena. She turned toward the camera. Her eyes were completely black. And behind her stood something much taller. Something that had no eyes. No mouth. No recognizable face. Only a long vertical opening where a face should have been. The photograph contained one final detail. A date. Tomorrow. I don't know who sent it. I don't know whether it is real. And I don't know what will happen tomorrow. But I do know this. For millions of years, something existed beneath the ocean. Something that survived every extinction. Every climate change. Every geological catastrophe. It waited while continents moved. It waited while oceans changed. It waited while dinosaurs disappeared. It waited while humans appeared. And now, it has found a way out. So if you ever find yourself standing beside the ocean at night, and you notice a strange blue light beneath the waves, don't investigate it. Don't swim toward it. Don't follow it. Because if the ancient water pocket taught us anything, it's that the ocean doesn't always hide what is dangerous. Sometimes, it hides what is waiting. And sometimes, when you see something looking back at you from the darkness, it isn't discovering you. It has already known you were there. For millions of years. The message arrived at 2:17 in the morning. 3 words. Don't break the ice. There was no sender. No identification. No explanation. Just those 3 words. I almost deleted it. Then I noticed the coordinates attached to the message. They pointed to a section of the Arctic Ocean where no research vessel was supposed to be operating. A place covered by hundreds of meters of ancient ice. A place where, according to satellite records, nothing unusual had ever been detected. At least officially. My name is Daniel Cross. I was a sonar technician aboard the research vessel Northern Star. Our mission was supposed to be routine. Map the ocean floor. Study ancient sediment. Collect samples from beneath the ice. We had no idea we were sailing towards something that had been buried there for millions of years. The first sign appeared on our second day. Our sonar detected a massive hollow beneath the seafloor. At first, we assumed it was a natural cavern. Then the sonar showed something moving inside. Captain Miller stared at the screen. How deep? I checked the numbers. 300 meters below the seabed. How big? I hesitated. About 200 meters. The captain frowned. That's impossible. I zoomed in. The shape moved again. Slowly. Almost lazily. Then it stopped. We watched the screen. Nothing. 5 minutes passed. Then the contact appeared directly beneath the ship. The captain stepped away from the console. That's not possible. I didn't answer. The next morning, we lowered a camera. It descended through the dark water. 100 meters. 200. 300. Then it reached the seafloor. The camera showed rocks. Ice-covered sediment. Nothing unusual. Then something moved in the distance. The operator zoomed in. A long shape disappeared behind a ridge. The captain ordered the camera back. But before it returned, the screen suddenly filled with static. Then a face appeared. Not human. It was enormous. Pale skin. No visible eyes. A mouth extending almost the entire length of its head. And something strange was attached to its face. A layer of ice. The creature wasn't swimming. It was buried. Frozen. Waiting. Then the camera went black. Nobody spoke. Finally, Dr. Sarah Vale said, "How old do you think it is?" I answered before anyone else. Older than the ice. That afternoon, the captain ordered us to leave. But the engines wouldn't start. The temperature outside had dropped to -40. A storm had surrounded the ship. Visibility was almost zero. Then the sonar activated by itself. One enormous contact appeared beneath us. The same creature. Except now it was moving. Slowly. Toward the surface. The captain ordered everyone away from the lower decks. Then we heard the first sound. Boom. Something struck the hull. The entire ship shook. Boom. Another impact. The lights flickered. Then every radio turned on at the same time. Static filled the ship. And underneath the static, we heard breathing. Slow. Deep. Wet. Someone was breathing through the radio. Dr. Vale whispered. "It's awake." The ship suddenly tilted. A massive crack appeared across the ice beside us. Water erupted upward. Something had broken through. We ran toward the observation deck. The ocean was black. But beneath the surface was a faint blue glow. It was moving. Then the creature surfaced. Only its head appeared. It was enormous. Much larger than anything we had seen on the sonar. Its skin was covered in ancient scars. Its mouth opened. Inside were rows of thin teeth. But it didn't attack. It looked at the ship. Then it looked upward. Toward the sky. Dr. Vale suddenly understood. It's not hunting us. What is it doing? She stared at the creature. Looking for something. The creature opened its mouth. A sound came from it. Not a roar. A deep pulse. The ice around us began cracking. Hundreds of cracks spread across the surface. Then the northern lights appeared. Bright green waves moved across the sky. The creature raised its head. And the lights responded. Dr. Vale whispered. It's communicating. Then something appeared beneath the ice. Thousands of smaller lights. One after another. The entire ocean began glowing. The creature wasn't alone. There were hundreds of them beneath the ice. Maybe thousands. All ancient. All waking. Captain Miller shouted. Start the engines. The engineers tried. Nothing. The creature moved closer. Its head disappeared beneath the water. For a few seconds, everything was silent. Then the northern star lifted. Not rocked. Lifted. Something enormous was underneath the ship. The hull groaned. Metal began bending. People screamed. The ship rose almost 10 meters above the water. Then the creature threw it aside. The northern star crashed onto the ice. I hit the floor. Everything went black. When I opened my eyes, the ship was broken. The crew was gone. The storm had stopped. The ocean was completely still. I crawled outside. The ice stretched endlessly in every direction. No ship. No lights. No voices. Then I saw footprints. Not human. Huge. Three-toed. They crossed the ice and disappeared toward the horizon. I followed them. I don't know why. Maybe shock. Maybe curiosity. Maybe I already knew there was nowhere else to go. After almost an hour, I found something buried in the ice. A metal door. I recognized it immediately. It belonged to a research station. But the station wasn't on any map. I opened the door. Inside were old computers. Old equipment. Old photographs. And a wall covered with notes. The oldest photograph was dated 1951. It showed a group of scientists standing beside a hole drilled through the Arctic ice. Behind them was a warning. Do not enter the ocean below. Another photograph showed the same creature. Then another. Then another. Different years. Different expeditions. Same creature. It had been seen before. Many times. But nobody had reported it. I found one final document. It was written by the leader of the original expedition. The last sentence said, "We believed the ice was trapping them." Underneath it, someone had written, "We were wrong." Then I heard something behind me. Tap. 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 I turned. Nothing. Then the lights went out. A voice came through the radio. My own voice. "Daniel." I froze. The radio repeated. "Daniel." Then. "Don't break the ice." I looked down. A crack had appeared beneath my feet. Blue light was shining through it. The crack widened. I stepped backward. Something moved beneath the ice. A huge eye opened. I ran. Behind me, the entire Arctic surface began breaking apart. Cracks raced across the ice. Blue light erupted everywhere. Then the creature emerged. Not one. Hundreds. They rose from beneath the ancient ice. Their bodies were enormous. Their movements were slow. Almost peaceful. They weren't attacking. They were leaving. And suddenly I understood the message. Don't break the ice. It wasn't a warning about the creatures. It was a warning about us. The ice wasn't their prison. It was the barrier keeping them away from the surface. And we had just destroyed it. I ran until I found a rescue beacon. I activated it. 6 hours later, a helicopter found me. They asked what happened. I told them everything. They didn't believe me. Until they saw the ocean. The entire Arctic region had changed. Huge circular openings had appeared in the ice. Blue lights were visible beneath the water. And in the distance, something enormous moved beneath the surface. The pilot stared. What is that? I didn't answer. Because I knew. The prehistoric sea had opened. And the creatures beneath it were finally free. Before the helicopter left, I looked down one last time. Something was swimming beneath us. It stopped. Then turned upward. And for a single second, I saw its eye. It was watching me. Then it disappeared into the darkness. The official report called the incident an under-ice geological collapse. The Northern Star was declared lost. The research station was never mentioned. And every record of the creature was removed. But I still have the original photograph. The one from 1951. Sometimes I look at it. And I notice something I didn't notice before. There are 7 scientists standing on the ice. 6 are looking at the camera. The 7th is looking toward the ocean. Behind him, beneath the ice, there is a giant eye. And the photograph was taken 75 years ago. The creature wasn't waking up that day. It was already awake. It was simply waiting. And now, so are the others. Because the deepest oceans on Earth are not empty. They are not silent. And they are not ours. Somewhere beneath the ice. Beneath the trenches. Beneath millions of years of darkness. There are things older than humanity. Things that survived when almost everything else died. And if the ice was once the only thing keeping them away from us, then perhaps the most terrifying question isn't, what lives beneath the prehistoric sea? It's this. How many of them have already reached the surface?